Hi everyone, it's Mary Brownlee, licensed professional counselor. Thank you so much for being here with me again. Tonight we're going to talk about basic human rights. So these are things I share with a lot of my clients right in the beginning of therapy, especially when they come in and they are completely lost and have no idea why they are struggling in all of these areas that we've been talking about over the last few videos. So yeah, basic human rights, what are these? So these are things that every single human being comes into this world. It doesn't matter what your background is, your religious belief, your sexual orientation, the color of your skin, etc. You are owed these basic human rights by the very fact that you breathe air and are on this planet. So every person, regardless of their background, um, have these rights. And a lot of times when we are abuse victims, we don't realize we have these rights. And there has been a lot of behaviors, negative behaviors over time, for example, by abusive individuals in our lives, to the point where we didn't even realize we had the right to be respected, for example, or the right to be spoken to kindly, for example. So yeah, I kind of wanted to read these, and I will link below where I have gotten these wonderful basic human rights from. It's from another therapy website, Serenity Online Therapy. They are fabulous. I show them to so many of my clients, and it is part of the process of waking up as an abuse survivor to realize, wow, I was maltreated. I didn't deserve this, and it needs to stop. And I have the right to protect myself, and I have the right to safety and to happiness and to be healthy and to feel like I'm a part of this planet and I deserve to be here. So yeah, this is kind of early on in the process. And so I want all of you out there too, no matter where you come from, to understand very deeply that you are a human being worthy of love and respect and community and to feel safe on this planet. And if anybody makes you feel unsafe, you have the right to protect yourself and to remove yourself from their presence if needed. So yeah, let's go over them one by one. And I'd be so curious about your thoughts or anything that occurred to you as I read through these, anything that kind of hit home. So feel free to, comment below anything that you're experiencing as we do this exercise. And again, I'll link this in the description below as well. And yeah, so we'll get right into it. So the first one is you have the right to have these basic human rights and to stand up for them. Yeah. So I do have a justice warrior part of me. I do have a little bit of a rebel. And you bet that if I hear somebody is being abused, it gets my justice part going. I don't like to see injustice in this world. So these basic human rights, and the reason I'm sharing them with you today is to put out there in the world for everybody who's been a victim of some sort of injustice, that you did not deserve to be treated this way and that you have the right to be treated with dignity and respect. So number 2, I have the right to have my needs and feelings be as important as anyone else's. Wow. Is this news to you? I remember when I read this for the first time many years ago, it was something that had never even occurred to me in my family of origin, that my thoughts and feelings were as important as anyone else's. This is something that did not exist for me growing up. And so many of my clients can relate. Your whole life that you've been taught that your thoughts, feelings, and needs and perspectives were wrong, were dumb, were stupid, were not as good as the rest of the families. So yeah, this can really sometimes hit home pretty profoundly for people who are hearing or experiencing this for the very first time. So number 3, I have the right to experience and express my feelings if I choose to do so and in a respectful way. That's right. Imagine that. You have the right to express yourself as long as you're not going off and abusing anybody and screaming and shouting and being disrespectful and calling names. But if you're just calmly speaking, hey, this is how I feel, that was harmful to me. Guess what? You're allowed to do that. All of us have the right to be able to speak up and to be heard as long as we're respectful. And ironically, notice that usually the abuser, the larger family, for example, if we come from very dysfunctional families, don't like it when we speak up. We could say it in the nicest, calmest, most respectful way, but abusers or unhealthy people always have a problem with us speaking up for ourselves. Doesn't mean we stop speaking up for ourselves. It means that sometimes we have to speak up more because you teach people how to treat you too by what we allow. So if we allow disrespectful behavior to continue, you can bet it will continue. So we'll get to more about that too later on. So question 4, I have the right to not be responsible for the feelings of another. Imagine that. Yeah, nobody is responsible for the feelings of anyone else. Now, granted, if you're abusing somebody, it makes sense that you're going to cause harmful feelings. I'm not saying, that that's not true. Of course that's true. But, if I am feeling sadness or anger or whatever degree of emotion I'm feeling, it's up to me to understand where that emotion comes from and to respond in a healthy way. So, for example, this is where in therapy, for example, we teach the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting, when we have a swift emotion, for example, oftentimes it activates that fight or flight system of the body, and people can react, just kind of a knee-jerk reaction, for example, or maybe they're screaming and shouting, or they're hitting somebody, for example. Those would be inappropriate reactions, versus responding. So again, that same emotion floods us, but instead of maybe flying off the handle and screaming and yelling, instead we're responding calmly, and we're using those great I statements of say, hey, when you did that, this is how that made me feel. That's a respectful response. And we're not blaming other people for our feelings. We're just saying, this is how that behavior made me feel. We're taking responsibility for our own emotions. We're not putting them on somebody else. So unhealthy people will always typically put their emotions on somebody else. Like, it's you who made me feel that way. It's your fault I feel this way. Ooh, no. It's okay to say, hey, that behavior made me feel this way. It's not okay to say, you made me feel that way and you're wrong and you're bad and you need to change. Yeah, that crosses over a line. All right, number 5. I have the right to express my opinions if I choose to do so and in a respectful way. So notice how there's a trend, in a respectful way. That's right. We want to be able to talk to other people with respect about our thoughts, feelings, needs, and perspective. We're all going to have differing perspectives, thoughts, and feelings. That is totally normal. But we need to be able to engage in dialogue and respectful dialogue. Again, a lot of times in our abusive families, dialogue was non-existent if it happened at all. And if it did, it wasn't really dialogue. It was just usually screaming and shouting and name-calling and criticism and belittling, and you get the picture. That's not respectful. So again, important to have conversations about differences, but done in a respectful manner. All right, number 6. I have the right to set my own priorities. Who knew? You are allowed to set your own priorities about what is important or not important to you, and it's allowed to be as unique as you are. Nobody else gets to tell you what is important or not important to you. Only you can do that. Who knew? A lot of this, again, coming from abusive families, this is like the first time people are really recognizing, oh my gosh, I have all of these rights. Yes, you do. Yeah, and if somebody told you didn't have these rights, big red flag that abusive behavior is going on. All right, number 7, I have the right to establish independence if I choose to. That's right. So, say an example, a lot of times in unhealthy families, independence is not valued. In fact, a lot of times independence is seen as a threat to the unhealthy parent. Again, unhealthy parents typically are all about control. They don't actually want their kids to have their own thoughts, feelings, have their own independence, their own mind, their own, perspective and opinions. That's seen as threatening. The more different we are from our parent, the more they are threatened by this. So that's why a lot of times our differences, our unique differences from our family or our parent, is seen as a threat. And hence they tend to try to undermine that. So a lot of these basic human rights is about reestablishing our actual rights to be our unique, independent selves. We don't need to be like anybody else. We can actually be our own unique self and be completely worthy and completely lovable, just as we are. We don't need anybody else's permission to do so. Let's see. Number 8, I have the right to decide how I spend my time. That's right. Nobody else can tell you how you should or should not spend your time. Only you can do that. Number 9, I have the right to choose my own lifestyle so long as I do not violate the rights of others. That's right. Nobody else gets to tell you that your lifestyle or who you fundamentally are as a human being, if you're part of the LGBTQ community, if you're a person of color, different religious or spiritual beliefs, nobody gets to tell you that you're wrong. As long as you're not violating the rights of others, You are allowed to have your own life and make your own decisions about who you are or who you're not. And that's perfectly acceptable. That's perfectly acceptable. None of us get to tell somebody else how to live their lives. As long as they are not violating the rights of others, it is their choice. All right, number 10, I have the right to change my lifestyle, myself, my behaviors, my values, and my life situation and my mind. That's right. You're allowed. You're allowed to change anything about you at any time if you want to, including your own mind. Sometimes we do change our mind. That's perfectly acceptable. We're all human beings, and things change from one day to the next, 1 month to the next, 1 year to the next. We are all evolving. If there's one thing that is a constant in our lives, it is change, and we are allowed to change. In fact, I encourage change. Change is growth. Change can be scary, but it's also growth. All right, 11. I have the right to make honest mistakes and to admit those mistakes without feeling humiliated. Yes. How many of you can relate to making a mistake and being utterly humiliated for it? So not only did they point it out, but maybe they rubbed it in your face, took glee in your downfall, brought up the story repeatedly, and humiliated you repeatedly for making any mistakes. So yeah, unhealthy families love to humiliate us for our normal human foibles. Not fun. Not fun. Everybody makes mistakes. None of us need to be humiliated for doing so. All right, number 12, I have the right to self-fulfillment through my own talents and interests. Yeah, you have the right to fulfill your dreams in any way, shape, or form that they come to you. You are a talented, wonderful human being, and I encourage any of you to follow your dreams. I did. And I definitely think part of us becoming our own independent, unique, healthy, whole person involves following our dreams. Maybe somebody earlier in your life told you you wouldn't be able to follow your dream. No, they don't get to define you anymore. Only you get to define yourself. And you get to define what your dreams and hopes and wishes are. No one else can do that for you. All right. 12. Let's see. 13 actually. I have the right to grow as a person and accept new challenges. Imagine that. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to be challenged. Number 14, I have the right to choose with whom I spend my time and with whom I share my body with. That's right. No one gets to tell you who you can and cannot spend time with, who you share your body with. That is your basic human right. Don't even get me started about some of the stuff going on in this country. You have the right to share your body and who you spend your life with. That is your own basic human right. All right. 15, I have the right to be treated with dignity and respect in all of my relationships. All of them. All of them. Every single human being on this planet is worthy of dignity and respect in all of your relationships. It doesn't matter if it's your parents, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friendships, colleagues, etc. Dignity and respect. And if you are in a relationship where you don't receive dignity and respect, that is not the right relationship for you. No. And let's see, number 16, I have the right to be listened to respectfully. How many of you have felt disrespected as you were just engaging or attempting to engage in some sort of conversation or dialogue? Yeah. If a conversation or dialogue enters into the disrespect realm, you are welcome to end it at any moment. Say this is not okay. I don't appreciate being disrespected, and I'm not going to engage in this conversation right now. We'll have to talk about this another time when you're calmer. So that would be kind of an example of a boundary. 17, I have the right to ask for what I want assertively. Yeah. So assertiveness, that's something that a lot of abuse survivors have difficulty with. Assertiveness just means that you're asking for what you need and want in a calm and respectful manner. And you're just saying, hey, I would really love it if you would speak to me kindly. When you talk to me and you're criticizing me or you're name calling me, it's really harmful. And I can't really talk to you if you're going to engage in conversation with me like that. All of us deserve to be spoken to respectfulully. We can all have our differences. It doesn't mean that we enter into disrespectful dialogue with other people if we do have differences. Everybody is worthy of respect. I have the right to say, I don't understand or I don't know without feeling humiliated. Yeah, imagine that. You know, none of us are God or a higher power. None of us have infinite wisdom. Sometimes we do make mistakes. Sometimes we do need to ask for help. And it's important that we can do that without being humiliated or disrespected. So I have the right to say no and to set limits and boundaries without feeling guilty. So this one is huge, because a lot of times when people start putting those boundaries down, just like I mentioned in the other video, woo-wee, boy, does that start World War III usually. Unhealthy people do not like boundary setting. And boy, do they go off and get mad when boundaries start to get set. That doesn't mean we back down. Doesn't mean that setting boundaries is wrong. After all, those people are responsible for their own emotional reactions as well. Responses, right? React versus respond. We talked about that as well. And just because somebody gets angry with us, or, you know, it gets an explosive level of criticism or whatever it might look like, doesn't mean that we back down from a boundary. A boundary says, this is not okay. This doesn't feel safe to me. Please stop doing it. Other people don't get to tell us what feels safe or unsafe to us. Only we get to tell other people what is safe or unsafe for us. And again, we'll talk more about boundaries. I'll do a whole video just on boundary setting. Let's see. I have the right to set limits on how I will be treated in relationships. Boundary setting again. Love this one. You absolutely do have the right to set down some limits on how you will be treated and what you will accept. You know, if your family members or friends or whoever it might be that might be harming you, if they are disrespectful on a continuous basis, if they're rude, if they name call, if they humiliate you, they put you down, etc., not acceptable. Not acceptable. And you absolutely do have a right to start setting boundaries if those type of behaviors are ongoing. I have the right to expect my boundaries to be respected. Again, boundaries are all about what feels safe and right for us. They're not about controlling other people. They're about saying, hey, that behavior, XYZ, you go ahead and label it, is harmful to me. Please don't do that anymore. Yeah. And 22, this is the last one. I have the right to walk away from toxic and abusive relationships. Yes, you do. You have the right to go no contact, or to go medium contact, or whatever level of contact that you feel comfortable with. Again, no contact is not about punishing the abuser. It's about keeping us safe. And unfortunately, if we have had to go to such drastic measures as to remove ourselves from a relationship with someone else, there usually are some significant safety issues. I've never ever met anybody who had to go no contact that didn't have very, very solid, good reasons to do so. So yeah, in sum, these are really so important for us to truly believe, to know, to trust. I tell my clients, you know, if this is like very much about like changing our mindset oftentimes. So again, if we're coming in from a lot of years and years of, you know, high adverse childhood experiences, high abuse going on in the family, we're not going to recognize these type of, you know, human rights. They're not a part of our vocabulary. So I tell clients, feel free to, you know, print this page out, paste it on your wall so that you can see it every day. So it starts to become reality for you. It starts to become something that you believe in, that you see as, yes, I am deserving of all of these basic human rights, and I'm no longer going to tolerate abusive or harmful behavior. So yeah, this can be a really important first step towards recognizing just how worthy and valuable and how you are deserving of safety and love and connection, that you deserve good things. And abusive and harmful, you know, behaviors are just not okay. They're not okay. And that's why we're all here today on my channel talking about how to end these types of harmful relationships. And this is just kind of the first way to start chipping away at it. So I hope you found this helpful. Again, I will link it below. Please subscribe, send me a like. All of it is so helpful. It's helpful to hear your feedback. Feel free to give me any feedback. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.